is, are you using ChatGPT, Gemini, Cloud, Copilot, or other AI tools in your research before you upload interview transcripts, participants' data, unpublished findings, or confidential documents? You need to join this important conversation. All right, it's very important for you to join this important conversation because it will guide you and bring to you some practical insights on how to still maintain issues of privacy, security, and confidentiality. So, yes. So now the first question that we need to ask ourselves is why research data is not safe when we using AI platforms, right? Why do we say research data is not safe? Why research data is not safe by default in the age of AI, right? So the default setting is that um, the AI platforms, they do not offer that security that we need to protect our data. So when you are uploading or using your work using on these platforms, as a researcher, you need to rethink data safety when using tools such as ChatGPT, Gemini, Cloud, Copilot, and other AI platforms, right? So the generative AI systems, right, they run on data intensive infrastructure. They run on prompts, uploaded documents, conversation histories, your system logs, human review processes, and cloud storage and model improvement settings, right? So because of this intersection of all these processes that the AI platforms run on, it creates new exposure points for research material that would ordinarily remain within encrypted drivers, right? University servers, ethics approved repositories, or password protected transcripts. So the risk now is especially serious in postgraduate research because students, they often upload raw interview transcripts, ethic forms, consent documents, and unpublished chapters. And they do this without understanding platform terms, right? So AI risk frameworks now treat privacy and security central AI governance domains. It move away from the peripheral approach that they have been peripheral technical issues or approach that has always been there, right? So what is important is that convenience must never override participant protection, right? Confidentiality or lawful processing. We appreciate
Ngifakile.
we appreciate how these platforms, they offer affordances and nuances and how they can allow us to run through our data quickly, analyze our data quickly. But the important thing is that convenience must never override participant protection, confidentiality, or lawful processing, right? So that's very key, right? Because there are a lot of loopholes where data, when you're using it, can leak, right? When you are using these AI platforms, for example, it's possible for you unknowingly or unconsciously to upload or to include a person's personal information in your prompts, right? You think you've anonymized your data, but your prompts be might breach data privacy, security, or confidentiality. Or you can also upload files, and these files might contain information, even though anonymized, right, or pseudonymized, right? They still have information that can be tracked back to the participant, right? Either by age, by employment, by workplace, or by immigration status. that information can still be tracked back. So the uploaded files, they are a possible way of leaking personal information. The chat histories, right? They provide the leakages for providing that personal information, the systems log, the human reviews, the reviewer comments that you might upload on ChatGPT, or the cloud storage. Right now, Cloud AI is an option to access your Google Drive. All right, and that's way too risky for you to allow. We'll talk about that. Right. So what we need to do is we need to understand before we get into the depth of this whole presentation today, where we're looking at data privacy, security, and confidentiality. It is imperative for us to clarify the three most important concepts, right, that researchers often confuse. And these are privacy, security, and confidentiality. So privacy refers to the rights of individuals to control how their personal information is used, is shared, retained, and destroyed. Right. Whereas security now refers to the technical and organizational measures used to then protect data against authorized access, loss, alteration, disclosure, or misuse. And confidentiality, on the other hand, is an ethical and professional duty to prevent identifiable participant information from being reviewed beyond the agreed boundaries. So when you're conducting research, you say, I'm not going to use your name, I'm not going to disclose any personal identifying information. Right. So in research practice, these three concepts, they often overlap, but they are actually not identical, they're not similar. Right. And I'll give you an example. A file can be secure, yet still misuse privacy, right? Where we say privacy is individuals' rights to control how their personal information is collected, used, retained, and destroyed, right? So we're saying that you can have a document that is secure, that is anonymized, right? But that document, the moment you upload it on ChatGPT now, it might breach privacy because we're talking about how your information, right, is collected, shared, retained, and destroyed, right? So a transcript can be poorly anonymized and fail the POPIA sets and fail confidentiality, right? And POPIA sets South Africa's law processing conditions in terms of accountability, purpose specification, openness, security safeguards, and data subjects, right? So we need to be very careful as researchers as to, you can say, I'm going to upload these transcripts on ChatGPT or Cloudy because I've anonymized them, I've removed all the information, the personal identifying information. You are, of course, you are adhering to the issue of confidentiality, right? But how about the issue of privacy that determines how that information is supposed to be processed, how that information is supposed to be safeguarded from the use of third parties or cross national boundaries. Right? Those are key fundamental issues that we need to understand in the age of AI and agentic AI, because I'll talk briefly about the difference between your what your ethical clearance said you conduct, you do your analysis with, and what you actually do with AI. Right. So now the question is, what counts as research data in the age of AI? Right. So what we need to do is to expand the meaning of research data beyond the obvious data set, right? So I know emerging researchers, masters, PhDs, and other emerging researchers, they often think that Data only means survey responses or statistical files, right? But the definition of data in the age of AI, it goes beyond the two aspects of your statistical files or the interview transcripts, because we literally looking at the definition of data is unprocessed information, right? So that makes anything that you're going to upload on ChatGPT as unprocessed information. Anything that you're going to upload, your prompts, your everything that you can ever think of, then becomes data for that platform, for that AI platform, right? So data includes then interview transcripts, your audio recordings, your file notes, your participant quotations, your consent forms, your ethical approval forms, your draft chapters, and AI prompts. All these then forms data. So the definition of data in the age of AI, or when you're using AI, it goes beyond the interview transcripts or the survey files or the statistical files. It includes all the information that you're going to upload on that platform for it to process for you so that you can make and glean meaning from it. Then it becomes data. So a prompt can contain sensitive information even when no file is uploaded, right? For example, I'll give you an example. Asking an AI tool to summarize the HIV related experience of participant 7 from a rural clinic may actually disclose special personal information, even if the participant's real name is removed. Right. POPIA emphasizes the protection of personal information processed by public and private bodies. Right now, this makes research workflows directly relevant where personal or special data is involved. Right. So what are we saying? We're saying a prompt has a potential to actually breach issues of data privacy, of confidentiality, even if the actual name of the person is what is not mentioned. Right. There's a potential to breach those details of your POPI Act of privacy, of confidentiality and security. Right. But now let's talk a little bit about the hidden risk of uploading interview transcripts. Right. So in this section, we're simply focusing on qualitative research and specific vulnerabilities of interviews. Right. Because more often than not, those are the kind of data that has, more or less some closer link to the participant when you're saying participant 7, 6, or 7, because they've provided probably their background information. So what are we saying? We are saying that interview transcripts are among the riskiest documents that a researcher can upload on any of the platforms, right? Because they often contain direct identifiers, right? Indirect identifiers, emotional disclosures, institutional details, the location, the names of third parties, and context specific information that can enable re-identification. So what I'm saying is that we can, without the name of the participant, right, using the kind of data that has been anonymized, we can still be able to trace back the participants, drawing on the indirect identifiers, the emotional disclosures, the institutional details, the location within which the study was conducted, and the names of third parties, and the context specific information that has been provided. Right. So even when names are removed, right, participants may still be identifiable through occupation, their community age, their migration status, their workplace, political experience, or a real life event. Right. So, what are we saying? We're saying research ethics requires respect for persons, your beneficence and justice. And what this means is that researchers must therefore take a proactive stage to minimize foreseeable harm and honor the consent conditions under which the data was collected. right? So AI use becomes then
Personally, I
ethically
like looking nice. I like
problematic.
looking good. I want
Right.
to look in the mirror and love what I see
Yes,
because she
there's
embodies. So
Aviwe.
personally, I like looking
Aviwe,
nice.
can
I
you
like
please mute?
looking good. I want to look in the mirror and
Aviwe Belani. All right, Aviwe likes looking good. Thank you for that. Um, so what are we saying? We're saying that AI use becomes ethically problematic when participants consented to academic analysis but did not consent to external AI processing. Right. So what we are saying is that de-identified does not always mean anonymized. If you remove somebody's names on the documents or on the interview transcripts, it does not mean the person has been anonymized, because we are saying indirect identifiers, the context, occupation, age, role, migration status, workplace, and political experience or real life events can still be able, allowing us to trace back who the actual participants were for this data. Right. So what are we saying? We're saying AI becomes very problematic when participants consent to academic analysis that the researcher said, I'm going to use a traditional Brown and Clark analysis approach. And jiggy, now the transcripts are uploaded on the AI platform for processing. And we know that AI platforms are not always safe, right? So what we need then to do is to, understand why researchers must then understand platform-specific data policies using AI tools. It is imperative for every researcher to understand the terms and conditions of each AI platform before they begin to use it. It's very important. For example, I'll tell you that AI platforms, model trainings, and data retention, your open AI and ChatGPT, AI platforms, they actually differ in a great deal in how they treat user prompts, in how they treat uploaded files, in how they treat chat histories or business accounts, in how they treat enterprise accounts and consumer accounts, right? I'll give you an example of OpenAI. It states that business products, for example, such as ChatGPT Business, ChatGPT Enterprise, and the APIs are not used for model training by default. But while consumer users have data control settings that affect model improvement use, right? And Google Gemini Privacy Hub knows that activity settings can affect whether chats and live transcripts improve Google's AI model. Right, so it depends with the activity settings that one is on using on that kind of platform, Google service that you're using. And Microsoft states that Microsoft 365 Copilot prompts, responses, and data accessed through Microsoft Craft are not used to train foundational models. Right. So the point here is that you should never assume all AI tools share the same privacy protections. Platforms differ, subscription types differ, and institutional agreements also differ, and settings and jurisdiction. All these issues matter, and you need to familiarize yourself with these things before you set to upload your work. Right. So I'm going to ground the next few sections in the POPI Act and the law processing of research data in South Africa. Right. So what I'm trying to do here is to locate AI assisted research within South Africa's data protection framework. Right. So we are saying uploading participants' data to an AI platform may count as further processing. external disclosure, or even cross-border processing, depending on the two POPIA's 8 conditions guide law for research practices. Right? So POPIA is central to this workshop because it governs the processing of personal information in South Africa, because we also know that under POPIA, law processing is not limited to data collection. It includes storage, analysis, transfer, it includes retention, it includes things like deletion and further use. So when then a researcher uploads transcripts or participant data on any AI platform, that action may constitute then what we regard to as further processing. It might constitute external disclosure or cross-border processing, now depending on the tools and its infrastructure. POPI eight lawful processing conditions actually ask or requires researchers to justify why personal data is being processed. And it also limits the processing to what is necessary and collect for a specific purpose and maintain security safeguards and allow data subject participation. Right? What does this mean, therefore, to the researcher? It means researchers should align AI use with ethics approvals, consent forms, institutional data policies, and POPI Act compliant data management platforms. Right. So, what are we saying? We are saying your analysis of data that you do, if you are going to do analysis of data using these platforms, that should have already been declared in your proposal or in your ethical clearance application. You cannot then say in your ethical clearance when you applied, I'm going to use the manual Brown and Clark thematic analysis where I'm doing my color coding. And later along the way, you then bring in ChatGPT or Cloud AI to process that information. That would be a breach of your ethical clearance conditions. So what we're saying, you need to align your data analysis approach with issues ethical approval, the consent forms. What did the participant consent to? In your consent form, was it declared? Was it made clear? Was it transparent that this data will be uploaded on ChatGPT? If it was not, then it will be unethical for you as a researcher to take that data, that the consent form that the person has signed says the data will be analyzed through thematic analysis manually, then you go and upload that data on ChatGPT. So we're saying even the data management plans, they should align to the ethical approval, to the consent forms, to the institutional data policies. You can then not go and store your data, right, in a folder on Cloud Coworker if you didn't mention that initially. That needs to be mentioned from the outset, right? So we also need to look at how and to link AI use to traditional research ethics and obligations so that we can align, not to move away and detach ourselves from what is being done and what is being doing. So research ethics, consent, and confidentiality. We say AI does not remove the researcher's ethical obligations. Instead, what it does is that it intensifies them. I'll tell you that in informed consent forms, they ought to or they should specify who will access participant data, right? You need to mention that this data will be accessed by OpenAI, will be accessed by cloud through my Google Drive. I will store it in my Google Drive and I'll analyze it using this platform, and whether the third-party digital tools will be used. This is where the heart of the consent, the confidentiality and participant protection comes into play. Declaring how and which third-party digital tools will be used to analyze the participants' data. Now, if consent forms do not mention AI-assisted processing, researchers should be cautious. You need to be cautious about uploading raw participant material, right? So what are we saying? Those of us who are familiar with the Bellman principles, it remains relevant in this particular case because it says that researchers should respect persons, they should be transparent, and they need to have beneficence, right? And reduction of harm and justice require fair treatment of participants, right? So in sensitive environments, in sensitive research involving, your migration, your politics, employment, health, violence, sexuality, corruption, or institutional misconduct, right? Then confidentiality breaches can expose participants to social, legal, economic, and reputational harm. What are we saying? We're saying that if consent forms don't mention AI-assisted processing, researchers should be cautious about uploading that raw participant material, especially for issues of migration, health, politics, and workplace research. Therefore, AI should be reviewed as part of ethics governance rather than treated as a private writing shortcut. We are arguing that the AI tools and AI as a whole should now be reviewed as part of the ethics governance, right? But now one might be asking themselves, what then should we upload and what should we not upload? What then should we upload or what then should we never upload to public AI platforms, right? So in this now we need to identify high risk materials that should not be entered into open or consumer AI tools, right? So we're saying researchers should avoid uploading raw interview transcripts, identifiable participant data, signed consent forms, audio recordings, identity documents, health information. And I'm trying to think where I'm sitting right now. How many identity documents, how many times have you uploaded your identity documents? How many times have you uploaded your CV? How many times have you uploaded your children's birth certificates? How many times have you uploaded your family issues using prompts trying to respond to your angry sister, exposing that personal family issues to those platforms? How many times you've uploaded your healthy information asking, this is what I'm suffering from? How many times you've uploaded your payroll, your student records, your unpublished institutional reports, your confidential contracts? How many times have you uploaded your contract trying to argue with the employer for a better salary? How many times have you created a password or credentials on ChatGPT? How many times have you uploaded ethics committee correspondence and proprietary research findings? You should also avoid prompts that indirectly identify participants, highly specified demographics, named institutions, or unique incidents. Most consumer tools can't guarantee retention, access review, or jurisdiction control. So you need to be very careful about this. Right. So now, building on these aspects that we think that they should never be uploaded, right? Because they carry identifying information that will later be processed by these AI platforms. The argument, therefore, then is removing names is never enough, because one person would want to come and say, I've anonymized my information, I've pseudonymization, and the risk of identification, right? I've removed all personal identifying information, no names are mentioned, no, and what the excuses that we give. the argument still remains that removing names is not enough when you're using AI platforms, right? Pseudonymization is actually a weaker way of protecting information, right? A common mistake is to assume that replacing names with codes such as participant one will then automatically make that data safe. What we've actually seen over the years is that pseudonymization actually reduces identifiability but does not remove data from privacy regulation. If the person can still be linked to the record through additional information, names replaced with codes, it does not mean that we cannot identify who the persons were. When you're looking at anonymization, which is somewhat a stronger standard, right? It requires a much stronger standard, right? The individual should no longer be identified by reasonably likely means, right? The individual should no longer be identified by any reasonably likely means. A much higher bar than simply removing names is actually required. I know, for example, the United Kingdom Information Commission, yes, office and European Data Protection Board, they both distinguish between anonymization and pseudonymization, and what they do is that they want that pseudonymized data may still remain personal data where linkages is possible. So in as much in as long as we can draw links drawing back to find out where this data is coming from, there is no pseudonymized data there. So in research, this matters because small communities, elite interviews, workplace studies, and politically sensitive cases often they contain contextual clues that make participants identifiable even without names, right? So it's not enough to anonymize and pseudonymize your data because we can still trace back where that information is coming from, but that's not enough, right? We need to talk about the technical evidence showing that AI and machine learning systems can leak information, right? We have evidence that proves that these AI platforms can actually leak that information, right? So um, issues of member interference, inferences, right? Member inferences, attempts to determine whether a particular record was part of the model's training data, right? There is another study that was done by Shokri that showed that machine learning models can leak information about individual training records, right? And another study by Kalini et al. Demonstrated that LLMs can reproduce memorized training examples, including personally identifiable information under certain conditions. When I probed effectively and thoroughly, you can trace back to say, where is this information coming from? Where is this example coming from? From which data was this example taken from? From which study? From which context? That study said under specific conditions, certain conditions, we can actually trace back examples that we take from AI platforms. Right. So later research on masked language models and medical notes also showed serious privacy concerns in sensitive data context. Right. What these studies do not mean is that every user prompt will automatically appear in a model output, but rather they provide us evidence that data intensive AI system can create non-obvious privacy risk. And what we need is responsible research practice that must be precautionary rather than casual. We need to be responsible and we need to be precautionary and not casual about our data. Right? So that's the evidence from studies that have been conducted to say, under certain circumstances, these platforms can provide you that information. After all, the architecture, the infrastructure of the AI platforms allows the owners of the platforms to access all information that, or even your prompts, or even your information that you would have otherwise put out of good faith, right? So now let's look at let's connect privacy protection with academic originality and ownership of research outputs. It's a very contentious aspect, right? Contentious discussion where we need to connect AI, academic integrity, and the protection of unpublished findings. Because what normally happens is that we run to put our published findings and our chapters that are incomplete to these platforms, using the prompts like fine-tune this one, make it clean, right? Improve it, enhance it according to the supervisor's comments, right? And in that process, that platform has already accessed your information. So let's look at AI, academic integrity, and unpublished findings. Right. So unpublished findings are not only confidential, they are also academically valuable. Right. So when you upload your draft chapters, original conceptual frameworks, unpublished data sets, or emerging themes of AI tools, right? Can or emerging themes to an AI platforms. These tools can create risk around intellectual ownership, premature disclosure, plagiarism, and loss of control over research outputs. You can actually lose control of your data, right? So what are we saying? We're saying academic integrity is therefore not limited to avoiding copied text. It includes transparent authorship, accurate acknowledgement of AI assistance. It also includes protection of original scholarly contributions and refinement or coding, and preservation of the research analytical voice. And AI may support editing, summarizing, language refinement, or coding assistance, all right? But it should never, and should not replace methodological judgment. Right? So what are we saying? We're saying researchers need to keep record of AI use. They need to disclose AI assistance where required by the use of or university or the journal. And they also need to avoid using AI to fabricate sources, the findings, the quotations or participants. I love how cloud does its work. Cloud pushes back if you're trying to fabricate data, right, for your research or anything. But I picked up that ChatGPT has a tendency to provide with you that data if you want to fabricate that data. And those are the things that we as researchers need to guard against, right? You need to keep a record of all the AI assistance that you've done, right? And published findings are very valuable to prematurely put them out there, right? We need to be very, very proactive and precautionary, right? So what then does this mean? We need to be responsible and use responsible prompting. And we need to learn to use AI tools without exposing participants. Therefore, what we need is a safer way of using AI for research support, not for convenience, right? So I always say the difference between a good output and the best way to protect your data is the kind of prompts that you would have used. Researchers can use AI more safely by working with synthetic examples, anonymized excerpts, generic methodological questions, non-identifiable summaries, or researcher-created team scenarios rather than raw data. For example, one way you might do is that instead of uploading a full transcript, a researcher, or you as a researcher, you can ask questions like, what are possible coding strategies for a qualitative study on migrant remittances? Instead of pasting a participant's full account, as a researcher, you can create a short, fictionalized excerpt that preserve the analytical issue without identifying the persons. Self-prompting should follow data minimization, right? And provide only what is necessary for the tasks. This is actually in alliance with POPIA's processing limitations and minimality principles, as well as the broader responsible AI frameworks that emphasize privacy preserving and risk-based use. So what are we saying? We're saying that researchers need to follow data minimization, share only what the task requires, and reduce uploading all the information, right? Opt for safer alternatives. Use synthetic examples, right? Anonymized excerpts and generic methodological questions, and fictionalized vignettes that preserve the analytical issue without identifying anyone else. Right, so those are possible safe ways to protect the participants' information from being out there on this platform. But we also need to go beyond data processing. We need to have secure data management before, during, and after AI use. Abeva, Sharon, can you please mute? Can you please mute, Sharon? Right. So what are we saying? We're saying beyond the anonymization and of that data, we actually need to have secure data management before, during, and after AI use. So we need a data management framework for researchers. By now, universities and institutions ought to have come up with this, right? We're saying before the analysis, before the research, AI responsible AI, a responsible AI workflow begins before the researcher opens an AI tool, right? I always advise that researchers should classify data by sensitivity, remove identifiers, store raw data separately from working documents, use encrypted storages, restrict access, maintain version control, and keep a data processing log. During AI use, right, you should avoid uploading raw data. You need to check private settings. You need to use institutionally approved platforms and avoid uncontrolled third-party add-ons. And you also need to, after you've done your work, delete unnecessary outputs, verify all AI-generated claims, and document how AI contributed in your data collection, data analysis, and ensure that no confidential information appears in the final outputs. This is very important, right? The NIST framework of AI governance is a approach is useful because it frames AI governance as a continuous process of mapping, measuring, managing, and governing risk rather than a once-off compliance. So we're saying the ethical use of AI and responsible use of AI in terms of handling your data, it should start before the research, before using the platform, during the process of using the AI platform, and after. Right, so it's a three-tier approach. It's before, during, and after. You need to make sure that you are there and you follow up on these processes. Right, so it's very important. It's very important. So what are we saying, colleagues? We're saying there is need for us to build a responsible AI culture in research and as researchers, right? We are saying that universities, supervisors, research offices, ethics committees, and postgraduate students need to have shared norms. They need to have shared norms in terms of how they use these AI platforms. And these shared norms may actually include things like AI use declarations. They must be uniform, approved tools list within the department, ethics forms updates, they need to be updated. We need to have secure data training and supervisor guidance. We need to have institutional AI policies. Most universities, they have frameworks. They do not have policies yet. And we need to have clear rules on what may or may not be uploaded to external systems. I know the UNESCO AI ethics recommendations stress human rights. It emphasizes issues of accountability, privacy, and governance. Um, so the conclusion then is that uh, protecting research data, protecting participants, and strengthening academic integrity and reducing legal risk. And we need to improve the credibility of research, right? And responsible AI is not anti-technology. It is ethically governed technological use or technology use, right? So in conclusion, colleagues, researchers should not fear AI, right? But they must stop treating AI platforms as private notebooks. Those platforms are not private, right? What do I mean? I'm saying every prompt, every upload, every transcript, or data placed into an AI system must be assessed against ethics approvals, participant concerned, POPI Act, or the laws that govern privacy in your country, institutional policies, and the researcher's duty to confidentiality. The safest research practice is to use AI for thinking support, structure, language refinement, and methodological guidance, but while in the same process keeping identifiable, sensitive, confidential, and unpublished data outside of the public or public domain or outside of the uncontrolled AI systems. So that's what we need to do, right? What are we saying? We're saying if data, if there are no names on the data, it doesn't mean the data is pseudonymized, is anonymized. Unidentifiable information can be used to trace back where that information comes from. And we are saying the AI platforms, according to research that has been done, that under certain conditions, these platforms, when they are stress tested, they can actually produce where that information comes from. And we are also saying that the owners of these platforms, they can access any information and trace it back to where it is coming from. Right. This marks the end of our workshops today, colleagues, and I hope we have enjoyed and learned some key and few things about how it is important to maintain privacy, safety, and confidentiality of our participants and our data when we are using AI platforms. And I want to reiterate that you should never use AI platforms as your private notebooks. Don't disclose too much. Only provide information that is necessary at that particular time. Right, colleagues, this marks the end of our session today. I'm going to open for 5 or 10 minutes of engagement to hear your thoughts. If you have any examples, if you have any experiences, I think this is the time where we can engage. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to take a hand from Taba Nkabinde. Right, there you go, Dr. Taba Nkabinde.
Good morning,
Morning, Dr.
Dr. Muringa and the colleagues who are in this platform. It's Taba Nkadimeni. All
Taba
right.
Nkabinde.
Nkadimeni, yes.
Yes.
All right. You know what, Doctor?
Yes.
It means we have been using these platforms and we did not know what to put and what not to put. So it means some of us done terrible mistakes. Data has been put in this system. It means if somebody will need to trace it up, POPIA Act, people will sue, will sue us. We are going to cause now trouble. So thank you very much for this wonderful presentation, eye-opening, giving us knowledge which we really need in the age of Gen AI. I'm very, very thankful to be part of this platform, or to come to this platform and find you, be ready with this informative and your wonderful information. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. It's not too late to do the right thing. You can still do the right thing. It's not a train smash. The life is a process of learning and unlearning. As new knowledge comes in, the old one fades away. So yes, we keep learning as we go by the day. Thank you so much. There is a hand from Kubiku. You can go ahead.
Yes, morning, Doctor
Morning, sir. How are
Muringa.
you?
I'm well, and the rest of the colleagues. Uh, you indicate that after using the AI data management, you should delete all the unnecessary outputs. You remember what goes on Google stays on Google. So, what type of data do you think will be erased from the platform if you delete it? Do you mean to say if you delete it from your chat history, it's deleted forever and it's not accessible by
Right. So yeah,
outsiders?
yeah. Thank you so much. That's an insightful question. Very good question. So depending on the platform's terms and conditions, right? For example, I mentioned that the the different platforms talk about different things, right? Your OpenAI, it doesn't not use that data that you use, that you have the outputs and everything for training their models by default, right? The word default is an operative word. So if deleting immediately, right, the output, right, or any information, it might, number one, protect you from other people to access that information, right, within your platform, within your space. But also, when you're looking for it, Microsoft 365, right, it says prompts, responses, and are not used to train foundational models. Now that immediately, right, but in the long run, that information may be used, right? So in the immediate delete might save you from before that information. Remember, what has been processed are your inputs. The output might not have been used yet, right? So when we are doing reinforcement learning, right, in AI platforms, when you give a heads up, you remember when an output comes out on your AI platforms, you can say, this is good, this is bad, I don't like it, right? Confirm this is nice, right? When before that info, you have given a go ahead or a heads up for that information, right? That information might not have been approved or processed yet again. You get it? So removing that information before the platform has reprocessed that information might be save you for that training or reuse of that information for training. But the aspect of deleting really, I don't know if it actually saves you most from these AI platforms. The aspect of deleting the personal outputs or that information might save you from third parties to process that information or access that information. I see your hand is up again.
Yeah, well answered, Doc. I think you responded it very well. But
Yes.
now, is it not a? It's not like cheating, because now remember some institutions would also want to, in your declaration for AI use, they would also want to see your chat history with your AI platforms. Now, if you have deleted, it means that you do not have that chat history. Would it
Yeah.
affect you negatively in your
Right. That's that be-
academic?
that causes a lot of problems for you because we are saying that you need to keep logs of everything that you've done. Right. So you'll be in a big deep problem if the institution now requires of you to provide them with for example, when I'm using ChatGPT or cloud, I normally keep a prompt matrix, right? I ask it, after everything that I've done on this platform, please generate for me a prompt matrix that details every prompt that I used and the summary of the output and the implications and stuff, depending on what I want to use that prompt matrix for. Then I use those, then I use those in form of Word documents or PDF documents, right? Then after I'm done with that project, I normally close that project off and delete that project off. But I have the prompts matrix, what I did, the drafts and stuff like that in Word formats in an offline document or an offline folder so that I can provide those. I don't keep them there online because those platforms, they do have a very good memory. They will keep them there. That's how I approach, but I'm sure different people approach these in different ways, right? Hope
Yeah,
that
thanks so much. Sincerely appreciate it. I think it's well
right.
answered.
We
Thanks.
okay, appreciate it. There's a hand from Lindy Way. There you go, Lindy Way.
Yes, good morning, Doc, and thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for this presentation. For me, there's something you mentioned about Google Drive. I've been storing some of my information on Google Drive, and I'm not sure if I heard you clearly when you said the information there is not safe. Can you please elaborate or clarify that section?
All
Thank
right.
you.
So here's what I'm gonna show you something quick. And I'm gonna do a quick demonstration for you. What I mean when I'm saying the information in the Google Drive is not safe. I'm going to share here my Google. I'm gonna share my cloud, right? I'm going to share my cloud with you so that you can see what I'm saying, that the information in the drive is not safe. Okay, what are we sharing here? The information in the drive is not safe. In your Google Drive is not safe, right? I'm gonna share with you what we have here. Right. So if you can look here, this is my cloud AI, right? When I'm using cloud, right? So if you look here, is my screen visible? Is it big enough?
If you can zoom it a little bit, it's a little bit tiny.
Okay, I'm gonna zoom it a little bit like you've suggested. Right, I'm sure it is big enough now.
Yeah, thank you. It's clear now.
Right. So if you are using cloud, and the same thing happens again on Google, on ChatGPT. If you're using cloud, it has an option here. If you go to this plus section, right, it has an option to say connectors, right? If you go to connectors here, these are the drives that that cloud has access to on your computer or on your Google if you are logged in on Google. Right. So it is access to Consensus. Consensus is a website. It's a database for literature. Google Drive, my Google Drive is linked to it's linked to this whole cloud system that I'm using, and PubMed and add Google. So it's asking me. So if you go to say add from Google Drive, right? All these files here that are in my Google Drive, it has access to already before I even do anything. Right? Before I even do anything, it has access to this. So if I say to here, write I'm gonna say to it here, write I'm going to say to this platform, write a paragraph or write a summary, right? I'm going to say write a summary of the files in the folder, right? I'm trying to think NSA and what are the files about, right? In my drive, in my Google Drive, right? So what we're going to see here is that we're going to see here already Google, this platform here, cloud, is searching the entire Google Drive. It has access to the entire Google Drive. It's searching everything that is there. Right now, it says to me, I found 2 folders with NSA in the name. Which one do you mean? There's NSA June, then the NSA report May 2026. Then there is both. Right. So what does this tell you? It tells you that what has happened here, if we click here, what it was doing, it searched the entire drive, right? I'm going to say both, right? I found 2 folders. Now it's running now. Before it got to, let's look here. It ran through the entire Google Drive looking for these 2 folders. So by default, it has access to the entire drive, the entire Google Drive. So all your information that is in that drive, it is exposed and it's not protected anything by anything. It is run. So basically this agent here has trained itself to look for the information, using the information in your drive to look for these 2 drives, these 2 files, and it has found them, and it has given me, it says in short, all files related to consulting engagement by MNG research facilitating NSA. Already that information about this project that I was working on is there on their platforms. That's what I meant by when I said that the information that is in your drive is not safe, it is exposed. I hope, Lindy, where you were answered with a practical demonstration.
Yes,
Lindy,
I'm answered. Thank you very much.
right.
So it's a bit scary though.
Yeah, it's very scary, right? It's a scary exercise. That's why I was saying researchers are considering convenience over protection of their data. Because me as a researcher, I do not have time to run through and analyze all the data or the files that I have. I can just delegate that process to this platform because it's going to do it in 2 minutes. But what are the risks that are involved with that convenience? What are the risks? Now, do the benefits outweigh the risks? That's where the question is. Would you rather have all your files, your personal information in your Google Drive exposed for just one report that you want to have, right? So that's what happens when you using, the same happens on ChatGPT and all other platforms that you're using, right? So that's the situation we have, and that's what is happening, right? Do we have any other questions, colleagues? Any other questions or comments? I'm going to the comments here, the comments box. It says, Doc, can I please have the PowerPoint presentation? Unfortunately, I can't share these PowerPoint presentations because they are for the purposes of training. If you want, you can go and re-watch this session, right? Please, Doc, share your WhatsApp details, right? I'm going to put my email address here and my YouTube so that you guys can access it. My YouTube and my email address, so you can send me an email if you want anything or consultation that we can do with you. I'm trying to see if I can be able to do that here without restrictions, right? Any questions, colleagues? Any questions? My email address here. My email address.
Hello, Doc.
Yes.
If you put a prompt up front regarding your data protection and your privacy and indicate clearly in the platform that it must not ingest the data that you are sharing, do you think these platforms do respect that kind of instruction? Thank you.
So I highly doubt that they do, right? I don't think they do actually. The prompts determining parameters, they are normally often limited to what output you'd get, the do's and don'ts, right? But what happens after you have let the data go, it is determined, like I said, by the kind of subscription that you have. That's why it's important to read the terms and conditions of your subscription. It is also determined by the package that you're using, by the model and the version of the platform that you're using. Those are the determining factors, not your parameters that you put in a prompt, right? They more or less do not affect that, right? So in a nutshell, we're saying the platforms come with convenience, but what happens with our data, it normally doesn't lie with us, because we as researchers, because we are so much excited and want convenience, we say accept, 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 agree, 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 agree. Then boom, you start analyzing and uploading your data. So your parameters or your instructions doesn't necessarily have a binding effect on how the data will be used after you've uploaded it. Right, there is another hand from Musa. Musa, you can come in.
Yes, thank you very much. Can you hear me, Doc?
Sure, loud and
Yes,
clear.
Doc. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the nice presentation. Good morning, colleagues. My question is with regards to what they call offline AI models. Sometimes they call them local AI models. Would you say that in terms of now one trying to mitigate such issues, to use those instead?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I mean, the argument currently is that what institutions should do is that they should have local servers, right? We should have our local servers. We should have our offline models that doesn't go to the cloud, right? That we use that information or we run our data locally without connecting to the cloud. The problem comes in when the model is therefore linked to a cloud somewhere. That information, the moment it goes into the cloud, the challenge is that we do not, or we might not have their control systems to avoid that information from being processed somewhere else. So the safest way, I agree with you, is to have a local model or an offline model, right? But now the question is, would this local model always be local and offline? Because the moment it links to the cloud at some point, then that information will then be accessed. But local servers and offline models are the best way to go when we are looking at ways to protect our data and information. So I do agree with you. Right, so I've uploaded my email address and my 2 email addresses there. I'm going to also upload the YouTube videos for these further videos. If you want to watch more of these videos, the previous videos that we've done, you can still access them at your own convenience. Right, colleagues, do we still have more questions, contributions, additions or subtractions that we might have and that we think are important for us to engage with? Right, just to remind you that these workshops are not coming to an end in the near future. We're still continuing, the series still continues until the end of the year. So we are in for a good time and trying to get us to be responsible researchers who are using AI and who are using AI ethically and responsibly. Right, so here is it. You can access the chat. I've put my email address, 2 email addresses, and also the YouTube link. Right, if you want anything, drop me an email. Then we will be in touch with you. We can schedule. Right, there's Lazarus. There you go, Lazarus. You can go ahead. I'm seeing there are more comments coming into the chat. Lazarus, you can go ahead. Lazarus, you are muted, or perhaps you should switch off your video so that your network becomes stable. Right. Cecilia said, can I use cloud for free? Yes, you can use a cloud version for free, but it has limitations, of course. It has limitations. You can't use it for the whole day or for the whole task. You're going to have to wait. You use it for 2 hours and you're going to have to wait again for 8 p.m. to resume your work. So that's how cloud works. But the free version actually works. Most students use the free version. You can actually use it, right? Lazarus says, good morning, Doc. Just to add on Cecilia's question, is there any free AI platforms that detect plagiarism and AI detectors on Turnitin? There is a lot. Go to one that is just done, go to Humanizer AI, go to QBot, go to humanizer.org. There's a lot. There's just a lot that can humanize the work. They can remove AI detection, a lot. If you love cheating, you can cheat, right? I don't encourage those, but just go on Google. Even you can even ask ChatGPT to tell you those platforms. It can tell you. Right. Thanks for your full commitment to sharing your knowledge, experience, expertise. Stay blessed. Appreciate it, colleagues. I assume that we don't have any questions coming in. At the count of 5, we're going to call it a day, right? We go 5, we go 4, we go 3, we go 2, we go 1 and 0. Thank you. This marks the end of our presentation today. Let's meet again next time, Saturday, same time and same place, as we talk all things ethical use of AI and responsible use. Oh, there's a hand. Molauzi. Molauzi, you can go ahead as we round up. Molauzi, you can unmute. Molauzi, are you there?
It's a mistake, Doc. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. Okay, thank you so much. I assume you wanted to clap hands or say bye. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. Let's meet next week as we talk more things AI and and ethical and responsible use in research. We'll meet next week and next time. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, Doc, very much.
Thank you, Dokotela.
Bye, doctor. We
Bye
appreciate.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, Dr. Taylor.